Welcome to another Figuring Out Japan video. We sell all the coolest Japanese collectibles and figurines straight out of Japan, and you can check out more details about us in the description of this video, including our eBay store and our Facebook page. So in this video I'm actually going to be reviewing the figure that you see in front of you in the middle, which is Android 20, aka Dr. Gero, or as he's often referred to in the English version, Dr. Gero. He's kind of got this fancy kind of French pronunciation thing going. So I'm going to call him Dr. Gero. And this was released back in 2011 in the SCultures Series 1 series. And I'll just show you the box quickly. So this is what the box looks like. So same design as any of the Series 1 figures. So you can see in the box they actually refer to him as Android 20, but you could refer to him as either. That's fine. And as is common with Banpresto, they release their figures in sets of 2, and the Gero was actually released with Vegeta. So those two figures were actually released at the same time. But the two that you see in front, behind you, Perfect Cell and Android 16, were actually also released in the same series, and these were all in the same series as the Goku, the Gohan, and the Piccolo. Let's get some of those guys out of the way. Back to Android 20. So firstly, the height of this figure is pretty decent. And that's about 160 mil up to his shoulder, so you can then add about another probably 4 mil. So he's about 2,000 millimeters, so about 20 centimeters, maybe a little bit less. So that's a comparison with an iPhone 5 case. So he's pretty big. And I really just love the sculpt job of this figure. I mean, it really looks like that evil scientist that Dr. Gero is. You can see all his hair in the back, all the sort of crinkles in his pants, even the shoelaces on his feet, even the sort of the veins on his arms. And it's a bit hard to show, but he actually does have that red energy sucking device on his right hand. The left hand's a clenched fist, so he doesn't have it, but the right hand, you can see it. And even just sort of the paint job on his vest, you know, it's nice and shiny, looks really good. And especially the face, it's really just top notch. Just really captured that evil scientist look. I think the sculpt job for this figure was really top job. It's pretty hard actually to sculpt a sort of old man. It's probably harder than sculpting, say, a Goku or that sort of thing. And the scale works pretty well with, you know, Android 16, Android 20. You can then have Android 18 in the foreground. You know, that looks pretty good. He really is a great figure to add to any sort of Android saga display. And the other really cool thing about this figure is that you can actually take the hat off and reveal his brain underneath, which actually happens when, I think it's Android 17 knocks him. So you can see, even if I can get into focus, there we go, you can see even the detail in sort of the pins attaching it to the head, and even the brain looks pretty realistic. So very, very cool looking. Does look a little bit green. The sort of plastic or the glass they use does sort of give it that green tinge. I don't personally think he looks good displaying him like that. I think he does look better with his hat, but it still looks pretty cool nonetheless. So in terms of my thoughts of this figure. Look, any of the figures in the SCultures Series 1 line were just terrific. They were just amazing figures, and this one is no exception. The sculpt job, the colouring, even the extra detail, you know, even like his earrings, and like even if I compare this to say Android 18, you know, she's just kind of got these little, you know, these little earrings there, but in Android 20 they're actually like full, they're called sleeper earrings. So it's a terrific figure. Even if you like had some kind of light source, you could really make him look like super evil. And it's a very, very cool figure. It's very hard for me to sort of find fault with this figure or to make suggestions. The only thing I actually would have really liked to have seen with this figure is, instead of having him in this sort of tough guy stance, which works very well for a guy like Android 16, but when you're looking at sort of like a scrawny old man, I think they would have been a lot better actually having this hand outstretched with his fingers sort of out, with the you know, the energy device clearly visible, much like the Piccolo. You can see Piccolo has that outstretched hand, and you know, this was sort of why the Androids, or at least Android 19 and 20, were scary, because they could actually sap your energy. And so I think that would have looked a lot better if that energy device was visible with a kind of outstretched hand. I think the figure would have looked a lot more sort of scary. But I think he looks good like that. I think it looks fine. But yeah, I personally think that would have looked better. The other interesting thing actually with this figure is that the idea of putting the brain underneath has actually been done before. Irwin Toy, which was a Canadian toy manufacturer before they went bankrupt, actually held the rights to Dragon Ball figures outside of Japan. And they actually released a figure of Dr. Gero probably in about 15 years ago. It was a long time ago now. And I mean, the quality of it was not as good as this one, obviously, but it actually had that same feature. You could take the hat off and it had like a plastic brain underneath. So I'm pretty sure actually that the sculptor had seen that figure and used that idea. So it's good to see it crop up again. I actually still have that figure, but it's not with me here in Japan, but I still have it with me. So it's cool that they did that feature, but as I said, I think he looks better with the hat on. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a blue tinge. I remember the Owen toy actually had a blue tinge rather than sort of a greeny looking tinge from memory. In the anime it was like a bluey tinge, but it really doesn't matter, and since you probably won't display him that way anyway, it doesn't really matter. But obviously Dr. Gero, very important character in the Dragon Ball series, and really looks good when displayed with the other Android figurines. So thank you very much for watching. That's the Dr. Gero Series 1 SCultures figure released in 2011. See you in the next video.